Okay, so on the, I don't know, what is it, second, third day after there was another school shooting, the North Carolina legislature overturned the North Carolina governor's veto, um, no longer requiring a permit to buy a handgun. Now, not only was there a need for a permit, but you had to get it from the sheriff. And he's the one who did the background checks and made sure that not any old Yahoo bought a gun. I'm sorry, how is this supposed to make anybody safer? Did North Carolina's legislature look at all the school shootings, all the mass shootings, and whine that nothing cool like that happens in North Carolina, so let's make it easier? Now, again, this was obviously being pushed before this latest school shooting, but you would think that the legislature would look at what happened, because the trans man the man who shot and killed 6 people in Nashville, he bought those guns legally, even though he had some emotional issues. He bought those weapons legally. So North Carolina looked at that and said, yeah, that's the type of person we want to be able to purchase a handgun. Because let's face it, if they were concerned about a good guy with a gun stopping a bad guy with a gun, good guys with guns could get permits because they're, by definition, good guys. So, North Carolina looked at what happened in Nashville and decided, yeah, we want to increase the opportunity for that to happen here. Seriously, how do they think that this is going to make anyone safer? How do they don't. They don't care about making people safer. They just want unfettered access to guns. And as long as you have unfettered access to guns, they honestly do not give a shit as to what happens to you after that. They don't care about who gets killed. They don't care about, as long as it's not them. I'm sure that if they were the victim of gun violence, maybe they might try to pretzel their brain into why it's bad against them, but otherwise it's fine. I just don't understand how these people sleep at night. And they give all sorts of wild excuses as to why school shootings happen. There were side doors. That one's my personal favorite. There were side doors. Other countries have side doors. They don't have school shootings or much of any type of mass shooting. It's a mental health problem. Okay, other countries have issues with mental health. Still no mass shootings, which happen on the regular. I mean, occasionally a country will have one, but for the most part, we have more mass shootings than we have days so far. And oh yeah, and then there's the classic increasing gun laws won't stop criminals. So basically, you're saying, now this is even more hilarious coming from a legislator, because what do you think your job is exactly, if not preventing crime? let's not have laws at all. Let's have total anarchy. No more traffic laws. No more gun laws. And ironically, you can no longer ban abortion because you've just decided that criminals are going to crime. So abortion's now legal because even if you don't like it, well, criminals are going to crime, so that should be fine too. Murderers are going to murder, so why should we have laws against murder? I mean, it's going to happen, so oh well. That's life. I'm sorry, but we can't do anything about it. Drunk driving? Nah. Can't do anything about it. People are going to do stupid shit. Seriously, why is it just with the gun issue that there's this special pleading? This idea that somehow, because we have a Second Amendment right, which the NRA has twisted to fit, and other gun enthusiasts have twisted into something it is not. Warren Burger, Judge Warren Burger, he pointed this out years ago, that hell, even Antonin Scalia is, not as was never as insane as this. They understood that this Second Amendment doesn't give you complete and utter total access to whatever weapon you want whenever you want it. The First Amendment has boundaries. So does the Second. And in the case of the Second, it is written into the goddamn amendment. It actually says a well-regulated militia. It does not say any yahoo who wants a gun can have one. It is about state militias being allowed to protect its citizens. It is not anybody who wants a gun can have it because it's a free-for-all. But that's just it. The First Amendment, which ironically is that these people also use inappropriate. I shouldn't say inappropriately. Well, I guess inappropriately too. But they don't understand that either. So of course they're not going to understand the Second Amendment. Do they understand anything in the Constitution is what I'd like to know. They've decided that they want access to guns and they do not give a shit about the consequences. And like I said, unless it happens to them, maybe, just maybe, then they might consider it. But most likely they'll just try to carve something and twist themselves into a pretzel to try to explain why violence against them is wrong. But, if it happens to you, oh well. That's just life. Because somehow they're special and they don't deserve to die, but everyone else does just simply because they're breathing. So yeah. That's North Carolina. They decided, Wisconsin, what they're trying to do, at least that's neutral. They're just deciding whether we should have a state gun. Like a state flower, a state bird, we're going to have a state gun. Now, is it stupid? Oh, hell yes. We have better things to deal with than that. Is it not going to get anyone killed? No, it's not going to get anyone killed. But it does, send a virtual signal that we love guns, and if you want to come here and start shooting people, that's perfectly fine because that's your Second Amendment right to shoot people. Because apparently the rest of us do not have a right to safety. No, no, the only safety we have a right to is getting a firearm ourselves and making everything the fucking okay corral. And if some innocent person is caught in the crossfire, oh well, they just were in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's just maddening how blatant this has become. I mean, these people, I'm starting to wonder if we can even call them people. If we can call them human, because they are sure as hell not decent. And I'd like to think most human beings are decent. And there's nobody right now, or very few, really very few people in the Republican Party who you could call decent. Because, and the thing is, most gun owners, they're fine with background checks because they understand they're responsible gun owners. They're not these yahoos who decide to buy guns because they want to shoot a place up for whatever reason. This person knew that they were going to die in Nashville. They knew they were going to die. They apparently wrote a manifesto. We yet do not know what that manifesto says. Why he targeted that school, which he used to go to. But this is an elementary school, and he was 28. So obviously, it's not whatever reason this person had, it's not that fresh. So this person had plenty of time to think about this. They apparently had other targets. He apparently had other targets. A local mall. He was considering targeting another school and then decided on this one. We don't know what led to any of those decisions. What we do know is he was able to arm himself to the teeth and shoot up a school, and thankfully only 6 people were killed. It could have been so much worse. But you listen to the people on the right, and oh, well, that's just, that's just the consequences of owning a firearm. People, shit like this is going to happen sometimes. It happens more times than there are days. How the hell can you say that this is acceptable? These are the same people who will regulate, who want small government, small enough to fit in a woman's vagina. But when it comes to guns, oh no, you can buy guns however many you want. But if a woman wanted to kill her baby, I should say kill her baby, then, well, we can't have that because we've got to have all these people born, so we have all these meat shields, so we can shoot people in a nice little shooting gallery, and because nobody's going to care about these kids anyway. That's why they're being put up for adoption or whatever. It's just, ugh. It is just amazing how callous these people are. Now, I realize the NRA is dishing out a lot of money to these people to make these laws so lax. But actually, I hope more trans people rise up, because that's how Reagan started pushing for gun control. Because, oh my God, black people are arming themselves. We can't have that. So maybe it's actually a good thing for trans people to do these sorts of crimes. Because maybe, will accidentally have gun control just because we're going to try to stop this group of people that we don't like from accessing the guns that we want. Because I honestly do not know at this point what is going to get through to them. Yes, like I started to say, yes, the NRA is paying them a lot of money. But seriously, you're basically saying that your becoming rich is more important than people's lives. That the only reason you became a lawmaker is to become rich, is to get money, not what's in the best interest of your constituents or even those who are pro Second Amendment. Because all this is doing is the people who want common sense gun reform, who are pro Second Amendment and think they should be able to own guns, it's becoming harder for them to be heard. You don't hear the people who say things like, you don't hear responsible gun owners talking about background checks and national registry and whatever. You don't hear about them because you just hear these extremely awful human beings wanting guns everywhere, wanting, the first thing that you give a newborn baby is a gun. They want guns everywhere. And those are the people you hear. So those who want common sense legislation, who are gun owners, because a lot of people seem to act like if you're against unfettered access to guns, you must hate guns. Not everybody does. There are people who are gun owners who also realize that this is ridiculous. But so yes, they're given all this money, but the fact that they're willing to sell their souls, if they ever had any, to do this doesn't say a lot about them as people. Because if you were a principled person, then no amount of money is going to make you change your stance. Because this is what most people want. Most people want common sense gun reform. It's not like you're doing this because this is the only way to get elected in a niche area. It's not like asking for common sense gun reform is a radical idea. Because most people want that. These people don't care. They just want the money from the NRA, and they will do the NRA's bidding. And that's just so disgusting, disappointing, whatever other adjective you want to use for this. Because it doesn't have to be this way. People can have guns without having assault rifles. Because, okay, even if you want to protect yourself, okay, let's pretend that you're being robbed. There's a home invasion and, it's probably going to be at most 2-3 guys. Usually it's just one, but it could be, okay, I'll be generous and say 4. A standard gun has that many bullets. You do not need these huge amount of magazines to shoot an invader. Unless you are the worst shot that's ever been known to man, you do not need hundreds of rounds or a gun that will shoot that much in a few seconds. It if you're protecting yourself. There is no reason for that. You do not need that much. So even if you agree that you need to protect yourself, okay, fine. You do not need that big of a capacity. You really don't. You don't, because you're never going to be in a Rambo situation where you have to gun down hundreds of people. And even then, Rambo doesn't need that much ammo because he's that good of a shot. You don't need that. And if you just need a gun for hunting, well, you definitely don't need that. I mean, what do you need a weapon of war for? To go hunting? Do you honestly think that the deer or whatever you're hunting is going to attack you? Which, I'm fine with hunting, but sometimes I wonder if that shouldn't actually happen. Because it's just ridiculous what these Second Amendment yahoos want. You shouldn't own a assault weapon for the same reason you shouldn't own a fucking flamethrower. It's the same thing. It's a weapon of war. You have no need to have it on your person. You want to own a gun? Fine. You're afraid of every bump in the night? Fine, get a gun. But you do not need one assault rifle, let alone 7, for protection. You don't need that much. You just don't. And if you're stockpiling because you're afraid your guns are going to be taken away, you should probably question why someone would take them away from you. Because if it's because you're paranoid about something that was never said, well, then you probably aren't mentally fit to have a gun. Or if it's because of something in your history that doesn't have to do with mental health, then you probably shouldn't be owning guns. But unless there's actual evidence that you shouldn't own a gun, I don't see why you feel like everyone should have unfettered access. Because if you own a gun and you're of sound mind and you've never done anything to have people question you owning a gun, and you use it just for protection, and you don't have an obscene amount of magazines or an obscene amount of capacity in your gun, i.e. not a weapon of war, then you don't have anything to fear. And if you're worried about a slippery slope, there is none. There is absolutely none. We had an assault ban for 10 years. Mid-90s into mid-2000s. We had an assault ban. Gun deaths went down. And if you point to other ways of killing people, yeah, there are other ways of killing people. That doesn't mean that assault weapons should be allowed. Okay, great. Humans are great at finding other ways to kill people. Awesome. That doesn't mean this is a country where the TSA makes you take your shoes off because one time someone tried to set off a bomb in their shoe. And ever since then, we've had to take our shoes off. And you're telling me that somehow that makes sense, but having all these mass shootings year after year, and we can't have an assault weapons ban anymore because that somehow restricts your rights? Seriously, How about the right of people to be able to go to school, go shopping, whatever it is, without worrying whether they're going to come home because some Looney Tune with a legally owned firearm is shooting the place? People like to point out that, oh, it's just the criminals, just the criminals. Guess what? Nobody's a criminal until they commit a crime. So, how can you say, oh, it's just the criminals? There is no stamp that's on you when you're born that says criminal. Do not give access to guns. This law proves that they don't give a shit about that. Because if that were the case, why would they? There is no way to prevent a criminal from getting a gun. They just took that power away. So I fail to see how any of these arguments work in this case. And it's getting worse and worse in other states as well. This idea that everybody should be able to have access to a gun, and we're just going to say platitudes like, oh, it's a mental illness problem, which a lot of these people who say it's a mental illness problem don't do fuck all to help the healthcare system. So there could be better mental health services available. So either they don't actually believe what the bullshit they're saying, or they just really don't give a shit. They just want to scapegoat something, but they don't actually want to do anything to help. How does that make the responsible gun owners? You forget they exist because you just see all these wackaloons. I feel bad for the responsible gun owners because, there are probably people who think that ban all guns. I'm sure there are people who want to ban all guns no matter what. But that's not going to happen either. So it's just so frustrating to see, especially right after another mass shooting, that that one state decides, you know what, let's let the criminals win and let's let everybody have a gun, and oh, if maybe we'll make the news and have a mass shooting and when will be cool. It's just so frustrating to go through this so much. And not only is there no conversation in good faith to solve this issue, amongst more than the Democrats, that is, but it's getting worse on the Republican side. Not only are they not interested in actual gun reform, they're actually trying to make the environment worse. There are countries that, when Trump called African countries shithole countries, who looked at us and said, you're the shithole country. And Republicans are like, we are going to give you a reason to think that. So, I don't know. Maybe this is their end game to stop illegal immigration. Nobody's going to want to come to the U.S. if we have such a shitty country. If we make ourselves too bad, nobody's going to want to come here. Because that is a solution, but is it really worth it? I mean, this is just unreal. It really, really is. And just makes me want to cry. It really does. To see how callous and cruel people can be, and a good amount of people. Not just a small minority of people. This is a nice chunk of people who seem to think that being callous and cruel to others is a good thing. And to other people who look like them, it's not even them trying to other people. They're they they just don't care. And it's just so frustrating that these people are in power and that so many of them exist. So I've been ranting much longer than I expected. So with that, I will see you guys next time.